Hi, my name is Phil. I like talking about politics, and after another roller coaster on the Brexit ride this week, the video you voted for today was, well, when might Parliament reach breaking point? First things first though, before any more comments, I've got a new webcam and it's got a ring light on it. I've been waiting for these for a while. It might take some settings adjusting to get it just right, so it will look a bit different to the other ones. But anyway, so basically yesterday Parliament showed that it is not willing to act against the government until approaching the point of no return, basically. But when exactly is the point of no return? How long do they give Theresa May to do everything that she can do before they say this is headed for no deal? Now, given the following outcomes potentially available. So one, someone comes up with a solution to the Irish border situation, and she reckons she's got a few, but no, I could do another video on that if you wanted. But let's say someone comes up with a solution that gets added to the deal comes back and the ERG vote it down anyway. They don't want a deal, they just want to waste time. Second, Theresa May gets no change to the deal, but they change some words to stop her looking like a complete fool when she tries to get Parliament to vote on exactly the same deal that was defeated by 430 votes recently. Or three, Theresa May somehow manages to do what couldn't be done for 2 whole years and arranges an actual withdrawal agreement that keeps us in the customs union and the single market, which might actually get through even without those Tory rebel votes, but that would split the party, and May seems to have acted so far to have avoided doing that one thing. So there's no credible scenario where we will have moved any further forward in 2 weeks' time when we're supposed to be voting on this again. Now, on the issue to the alternative arrangement to the backstop, because, you know, if there's an alternative arrangement to the backstop, this deal goes through. Now, well, actually, I still don't think it would, but it could. Now, a few people seem to be throwing around a proposal called the Malthouse Compromise. It sets out that instead of having the backstop, we will guarantee EU citizens' rights, which Theresa May said we'd do anyway, and negotiate a customs union. The problem is that it doesn't say what would happen if negotiations to the customs union were not successful at the point at which the transition period ended. Now, given that the ERG core are opposed to this anyway, it would run into an awful lot of difficulties. So as such, it doesn't actually guarantee that we respect the Good Friday Agreement after that transition period. Because that's all the backstop's in there, remember. The backstop isn't there, you know, because it's what anyone wants. It's there in case we don't come up with a solution. So this proposal seems to be saying, well, we'd come up with a solution. Yeah, that's what the current agreement says. It's just got the backstop in there just in case. So anyway, after reading some other comments as well, some people have been talking about Theresa May's potential negotiating position, and also in some newspapers as well. So some people are suggesting that she's going to go to the EU and with the threat of no deal. The problem is you can't go to the EU and remove the thing that avoids a hard border by threatening a hard border. It's a bit like saying, in fact, it's literally like saying, let us have the hard border or we'll impose a hard border. Right? What? The second point seems to be the £39 billion. Now, some reports seem to be suggesting that we're trying to use that as a negotiating chip. But we lose more than that by crashing out of the EU. Yes, the EU lose too, but they won't be the ones fatally wounded by it. And they know it. The problem is that some people seem to think that this £39 billion is a settlement payment. It's not. It's just the fees for continuing to enjoy the membership benefits during the transition period. There's nothing extra thrown in. It's not a negotiating position. If we want to carry on with those membership perks, of course we pay the fee. If we don't, then we don't pay the fee. In this regard, it's no different to a gym membership. So it seems we're about to be subjected to Theresa May acting like a spoiled child and the avuncular EU patting on the head and saying, I want never gets, just like my old nana used to say to me. But there could be another sting in the tail. Now, according to some newspapers on the continent, it appears that, for example, Spain are looking to get Gibraltar back on the table should the renegotiations actually open up. That would make the deal impossible to revise, of course. In addition, fishing members of the EU could put fishing rights back on the table. Now, of course, depending on what May's motivations are, She might be fine with that. Obviously, it will make it impossible to then thrash out a deal, but she's not going to get another deal anyway, anything that's materially different. So maybe she's not going to Brussels to try and get another deal. Maybe she's just going to try and find some excuses. And actually, Spain and any other nations who want to throw other things into the agreement, if the EU agreed to renegotiate, might actually just play into her hands from that point of view. They would certainly play into the ERG's hands. Now that reminds me about something regarding a lot of comments that keep talking about, oh, just give up Northern Ireland or Gibraltar. Neither of them are possessions that the UK has, like a child with a toy. They are people whose sovereignty is determined by them and them alone. There are enough spurious points in this debate that seem to be based on the idea of days of empire. We don't need any more adding into the mix. The days of empire are long gone. The UK doesn't have any land anymore that is occupied by anyone other than those who have said, no, we want to be British, or a British dependency or something like that. It just doesn't exist anymore. There is nowhere like that. The lands that the empire nicked over a couple hundred years, they've all been given back, albeit not all of them in pristine condition. Anyway, at this point, so when it comes back in a couple of weeks' time, there's supposed to be a deal, maybe, if there's something to vote on, and then there'd be a vote. But either way, Theresa May said on the 13th of February, she will tell Parliament what she intends to do next. Basically, that would only leave a matter of weeks, what, about 6 weeks to avert no deal. And that's something that Parliament says they don't accept. So at this point, the only way to avoid no deal will be to request an extension. I mean, it's already like that now. So Theresa May will have run out of options, but seeking an extension will cause the ERG to go nuclear. So Parliament can't expect any leadership from Theresa May on this one. She'll simply allow Parliament to propose more amendments and debate and vote on them, and then go back to the EU, and the whole hideous process continues until she completely runs the clock down, assuming that's what she wants. Jeremy Corbyn is in favour of an extension, but his preferred options don't have enough backing in Parliament, so they can't expect much from him either. So the only way to avoid no deal will be for Parliament to rally around someone else. They've not so far shown any sign of doing that. After all, it's not like there are 330 MPs willing to back the same thing. But the dithering could be due to just giving the actual leaders time to exhaust all options, waiting for them, and then maybe just deciding when should be the last moment when they have to just take over. Now, in that situation, Parliament would have to accomplish two vital things in a very short time. They have to change the date in the European Union Withdrawal Act, and they have to request an extension to Article 50. Now, the first can be done just by the will of Parliament. The second needs agreement from the EU, of course. Now, because no request has so far been made, it is a matter of pure speculation exactly what the conditions would be. It's straightforward to assume that the EU would only want to allow that extension to run another referendum, a better one this time. But that being said, who knows? If it gets very late on, maybe the EU will just grant an extension for whatever reason. I don't know. That's an unknown for me. It's going to be the last roll of the die if it gets to that late. Now, the issues here are that Jeremy Corbyn has already said that he doesn't want a long extension. So he'd have to change his tune, because really they could do with getting behind someone with some clout in the Commons. Theresa May might also be difficult in order to continue appeasing the ERG. So it might need a real willingness to ignore party leaders by Parliament at that point. Now, if that happens, I'm really going into the realms of mad speculation here. Maybe I'll come across a Brexiteer while I'm there. Something occurred to me. Now, I don't know whether this is feasible or not. Something occurred to me. So the ERG, who of course want no deal, they genuinely want no deal. They could spot an opportunity in suggesting to Jeremy Corbyn that they might be willing to support a vote of no confidence. Now, if they believe that toppling their own government would prevent Parliament avoiding no deal, I have no doubt they would absolutely do it. They have no loyalty other than to themselves. So Jeremy Corbyn would leap on that. He wants his general election. Vote of no confidence issued and passed with the help of the ERG. In a situation like this, we then technically don't really have much of a government. There's 2 weeks that Parliament has to find another government. If it doesn't, that triggers a general election. So Parliament would have 2 weeks to go. Now, I'm going to be honest and say I have no idea what Parliament can or could not do in a situation like that. You know, they'd have 2 weeks to, if they can, change the European Withdrawal Act. 2 weeks to also try and get an extension. But in a situation like that, I don't know who would be able to formally request it, because we wouldn't technically have a working government. Theresa May would have lost the confidence of the House, so she wouldn't really be Prime Minister. I don't quite know where her authority is. And this is the problem. It creates huge constitutional problems. But at a situation like this, regardless of who does what, I mean, that's the thing. You know, if we still have no withdrawal agreement, then, you know, in 2 or 3 weeks' time from now, the constitutional issues will have never really arisen before and put to the test. And because the British Constitution, it's not nice and tidy. It's not like the famous US Constitution, which nice tidy documents. No, ours are just a mad collection of ancient scrolls and more modern texts that have been built up over hundreds of years. You know, you need experts to be able to navigate the way around this sort of mess. And I'm not such an expert. But if we reach that point, then as I said, I see no credible way that it will be avoided without a very surprising turn of events. Parliament will either have to go for it and agree to a desired outcome, or sit back mid-clear and just wait for no Brexit to unfold before their eyes. It's not like they even have up to the 29th of March, because, you know, you can't do everything on the last day. Some things take a little bit of time. There'll be resistance from Parliament, you know, which adds on to that time. They'll probably have until the end of February before events start to get out of their control. Now, we've already lost the power to act on our own. As I say, you know, whatever we want to do pretty much is going to need an extension, and that needs the blessing of other people. So essentially the timeline as I see it is as follows. Theresa May has promised to update Parliament by the 13th of February. By then we should have seen a new deal and voted on it. Of course, a politician's promise is not always worth a great deal, so she could easily argue that negotiations are still ongoing. It always look very promising, and she needs another week. But a week later, Parliament has a recess for a week and a half. Now, that recess could be cancelled, but there are people who want to run the clock down and would resist that move. But if Parliament does cancel the recess, it would show that it's serious about avoiding no deal. But at some point, there'll have to be another vote, and some will be hoping that Parliament keeps a simple choice between her deal and no deal, and therefore forces her deal through. Some may still believe that if they just keep hanging on, then the EU will crack and concede everything at the last moment, unicorns and all. If either of these groups fails to wake up from their dreaming, then Parliament will never have enough bite and will just sleepwalk off that cliff edge. It would almost be worth seeing that, just to see the look on Nigel Farage's face when he realises he's screwed. But I'd say that if Parliament is prepared to crack at all, then and take matters into their own hands effectively, it has to be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's not certain, but the most credible situation at that point would be as follows. 1, the EU will have stuck to their guns and there's no movement on the backstop. I mean, how could there be? They're quite happy to have movement on the political declaration, but you can't have movement on the backstop without a credible alternative, and we don't have any. 2, Theresa May continues to stall. Now, that's not a given, but you never know. 3, Jeremy Corbyn still refuses to back a second referendum or anything else that will really avoid this situation in a way that would get the support of Parliament. And 4, the markets now look at a no-deal scenario looking bloody likely, and the value of the pound plunges. In that situation, Parliament may snap out of it, and will then at that point know it's now or never. And so I'd say probably by Thursday the 14th of February, not acting at that point is basically to allow no deal. So we will see how determined Parliament is, you know, in terms of shaping Britain's future 2 weeks today probably, and they would start showing their seriousness by cancelling the February recess. So anyway, that's my appraisal of that one. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, click the bell notification because you'll be notified of not only new content, but the polls I put out so you can pick the next day's topic or most days' topic. Until next time, I'll see you later.